There's been a conversation about whether or not Chrono Trigger, one of the most acclaimed and beloved JRPGs of all time, holds up in 2026. Is it too simple gameplay-wise and story-wise, or is it just simply better than everything else? I just beat the game for the very first time, and while I can see both sides of the argument, I firmly land on the side of Chrono Trigger being one of the most well-paced and well-put-together games ever made. Hello everybody, it's your boy Jmulls, and let's get into why I think Chrono Trigger is remembered so fondly, and why I believe Chrono Trigger holds up so dang well. Okay, so context. Right before we started Chrono Trigger, I had just beaten Xenogears, and I wanted another old school, Squaresoft JRPG to really sink my teeth into. And I had Chrono Trigger in my Steam library for quite a while. I just hadn't actually gotten around to the thing, and I decided to take the plunge. What did I do in the game? I got ending 1, where I not only saved I forgot the default name for the ship, the time travel machine you get. I called it the Telos because my Xeno brain rot is otherworldly, and I also saved Magus. I did all the side quests that I possibly could or were told about, and not to brag or anything, but your boy did beat Lavos first try. Then I'm like, you know what? I enjoyed that so much. Let's go for another big ending. I want to work our way up to eventually being able to take on Lavos at the earliest opportunity. That could be a nice little goal. So I started up a New Game Plus playthrough on stream, and you won't believe it, I accidentally spawned the fight with Lavos. When you first run into Luca at the fairground with Mala, there's a little shiny bit to the right where if you go up and interact with it, you just trigger the Lavos fight on a New Game Plus run. I don't know if that's what I wanted. I thought I was going to die. I'm like, screw it, let's play it out. I then proceed to beat the fight and got the Dream Team ending. There is so much to talk about when it comes to Chrono Trigger and what it does right. Because it's one of those games that just oozes fun. Like, it's fun to play it, it's fun to watch it, it's fun to listen to it, and you can tell they had a fun time making this thing. I do think in some ways, though, it is easy to get overhyped or to shift your expectations in a way that's probably unhealthy when approaching Chrono Trigger, just based on how some conversations surrounding this game can go. I think when people expect a JRPG to be great in the year 2026, they are going into it expecting rather deep combat and possibly customization, but also a very deep story that probably focuses a lot on like character development. Now, don't get me wrong, Chrono Trigger does have some of this, but everything I just described to you before, I don't even have 32 hours of playtime on my Steam account. Chrono Trigger is a rather concise game, and I don't think it's appropriate to go into it expecting that kind of fleshed out experience you could get from another JRPG that might run you like 80, 100, maybe even 120 hours, because Chrono Trigger is focusing on, let's tell the story of this world and these characters, but get you home in time for dinner. Now, that could be some of the biggest praise a game could get for some people, because there's a lot of people out there that are just kind of sick and tired of games being so dang long. They want something a bit more bite-sized, something they can sink their teeth into, but be able to put down in a reasonable amount of time and get a satisfying beginning, middle, and end. Chrono Trigger provides that in spades. In fact, if you want even more time with Chrono Trigger, you can dump in a bunch of extra hours, because this game is kind of known for its New Game Plus playthroughs, because there's a bunch of different endings. And the ending that you get, I'm pretty sure is entirely dependent on when in the game you choose to fight the final boss, Lavos. So your level and your equipment will carry over into a New Game Plus playthrough, and if you just want to keep playing Chrono Trigger and get all those different endings, you can do that. I play the Steam version. In the main menu, there's a little log you can look at that records all the different endings you've collected and shows you how many more you still have left to unlock. So if you want to approach Chrono Trigger in a way where it's like, I want a game that is very well paced, I can get a solid playthrough in, and I can put it down and not lose 2 years of my life, Chrono Trigger really appeals to that audience. But if you fall in love with this game and you're like, I just want more Chrono Trigger, you can go ending hunting. Like, you can do that. And I think the combat and the gameplay and the overall vibe this game gives off with the characters, the world, the music, all of that is repeatable. Not because, oh, look at all these different little variations. There's some of that in the game, right? right? Like when it comes to, are you found guilty or not guilty during the big trial scene? Does it amount to much? Probably not, but it is something you can target. What I'm talking about when it comes to replayability is that the game is just so well put together, so well paced, that characters are just colorful and likable enough. I don't mind interacting with the same scene multiple times. It's kind of what I talk about when it comes to like Bungie Halo replayability, where you can play through these missions again and again and again, but with a different loadout. Well, now everything's different. Your calculus is different. How you're tackling these problems is fundamentally different in terms of combat because you're bringing different tools to the job. We'll explore that more when we get to the gameplay, but when it just comes to Chrono Trigger overall as an experience, the story, the music, the characters, the dialogue, it's all so well written, where it's just, I would describe it as fun and enjoyable. It's hard to play this game, in my opinion, without just having a smile on your face because of the overall vibe this game gives off. Now, let's get into some more specifics and let's talk about the gameplay, because this is where I think Chrono Trigger really shines. I will defend Chrono Trigger's gameplay to the death. It is beauty and simplicity, and that could apply to a lot of the other components to this game, but especially to the gameplay. Now, why is that? It's the ATB system. If you're familiar with Final Fantasy and the PS1 era of Final Fantasy specifically, not entirely, but if you played those games, you probably are familiar with it there. Chrono Trigger has arguably one of the best, expressions of that idea. Every character has a gauge. When that gauge is filled, you can take your action, but enemies can take their action in the meantime as well. So if you take too long choosing what you want to do, well, the enemy might get a few extra hits in. There is a mode where you can enable wait, but I think Chrono Trigger is best experienced with this true expression of the ATB system because it provides a certain pace and tension to the combat, particularly when it comes to bosses, that I think is really second to none. It also allows these fights to be kind of threatening, but also puts you in a bit of a back foot situation where you have to react quickly. You have to learn the placement of your abilities, and I think it does a really good job keeping you engaged with whatever's going on. The bosses themselves aren't particularly overly complicated. Normally they have one or two gimmicks going on, and when you figure that out, you can kind of solve the rest from there. But there's not really any boss that I would describe to be too long or a giant health sponge. If you can figure out the gimmick and you can react to that gimmick accordingly, you can get through most of these fights in a reasonable amount of time to where they don't fall over immediately, but it doesn't feel like you're doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. And sometimes the boss can just hit you with a haymaker and force you to react accordingly. When you have a character die in this combat system, it can feel really threatening because do you have a good way to revive them? And do you have a good way to do that in a time-effective way to where your other characters aren't going to be too exposed while doing this? And if you do have a revive, does it heal them enough? Because if it only heals them for 50 HP and the boss is able to attack while you're waiting for your ATB gauges to fill to heal that character, they can just die again. This goes back to that good feeling of tension this combat system is able to induce in basically every boss fight, or at least the vast majority of them, it felt like to me. And on top of all of that, doing that while trying to understand what the boss's gimmick is and the best way to counteract it, it keeps you on your toes, and it also rewards game knowledge. You see, your characters have these things called tech attacks, and depending upon which party members you have equipped right now, that can change what combo tech attacks they can bring to the table. For instance, one of my favorites late game became a tech attack that the MC Chrono and Isla bring to the table. I think it's called Falcon Strike. It's basically this AoE that attacks a horizontal line on the screen. And when you come across a boss fight where it has this head or this central body and two hands next to it like this, well, I can use that one ability, Falcon Strike, to hit all three. But if they're situated like this, well, then I can't do it because that's a vertical placement, not horizontal. So just depending upon how the game presents enemies to you or boss fights, that changes your strategy in terms of how you're reacting to it, how you're trying to solve this puzzle. It's simple, but it's so elegant. And it also rewards taking the time to learn the various tech attacks between these characters and also experimenting with other characters, using them, unlocking different tech attacks with them. This goes back to that replayability I was talking about before. If you want a very different experience, you can just simply prioritize other party members on a repeat playthrough because you're going to be able to bring different tools to solve these puzzles. When we got to the late game in my first Chrono Trigger playthrough, I kind of focused on Chrono, Isla, and Mala because I had Mala for magic and I also had her to cast haste to increase ATB generation for my other party members, including Mala. She could also heal and all that good stuff. But on top of that, Isla and Chrono hit like freaking trucks. It was just a really solid party for me, but there's other characters that are also really dang good. Like all of them. Bringing Robo in for like dungeon clears is so dang good because he brings a lot of good AoE to the table. Frog can also hit like a truck, but he has some good utility on top of that. So as you experiment more and more with different combinations of characters, it keeps the combat feeling fresh and enjoyable. And I think that's one of the elements to Chrono Trigger that really holds up nowadays. It feels responsive. I'm talking about the Steam version here, by the way. I can't speak to the other versions that I haven't played, but on Steam, it felt responsive. It felt just good. And the game overall just has this really good pace to it not only when it comes to like the story, right? But also when it comes to gameplay, when it comes to leveling up these characters, when it comes to unlocking these various tech attacks, when it comes to providing different gameplay scenarios to keep you on your feet, when it comes to just throwing new bosses at you. The pacing in Chrono Trigger, in my opinion, is one of its best strong suits. And if you're someone like me that tends to play a lot of very long JRPGs or just takes a long time playing JRPGs to begin with, having something that's like a short burst, relatively speaking, like Chrono Trigger can be really refreshing. Chrono Trigger is a wild and wacky time-traveling adventure like no other. Even for a game that's older than me, I was still thoroughly impressed with it and had a ton of fun with it. So if you were to ask me, does Chrono Trigger hold up in the year 2026? I would, without a doubt, say yes. Now here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts on Chrono Trigger. Have you played it? Do you love the game? Is it one of your favorites? What is your favorite memory from the game? And also, would you like to see a remake of Chrono Trigger? And what would you like to see from that remake? I would love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it because I have to get back onto a video breaking down Xenogears and my overall time with it because, speaking of special games, this became one of my favorites. Speaking of JRPGs, we have the website for patch 7.5 of Final Fantasy XIV, and there's a lot to go over and to break down. Don't worry, I have your back. Want to find out more? Check out this video right here. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe. Have a great day. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.